everybody, welcome back to another Short Film Saturday. My name is 𝗬𝗧𝗘𝗩𝗪 and I am the Community Growth Manager here at Soleil Space. Today we'll be watching two amazing short films, one by Stephen Chow and one by 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥. As you can see, only Stephen is joining me today. Unfortunately, 𝗬𝗢 had a bit of an emergency, so she isn't able to join us for the Q&A, but she has given us the okay to go ahead and watch her amazing film, so we will be doing that. A little bit about Soleil. Our mission is to achieve a more equitable and representative global media landscape through film, television, and branded content. Our focus is on the global diasporas of Asia, Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, and the Middle East, with goals of elevating those untold stories from these cultures, forming closer transcultural community bonds, and providing opportunities and resources for our creators to produce premium world-class content. We specialize in long-form scripted and documentary film and television branded and short film formed digital content. We aim to uplift those underrepresented voices, and there is no better way to do that than with short films. Shorts are often the purest form of artistic expression and often, but not always, executed within the boundaries of smaller production budgets. Since launching Short Film Saturdays in late summer of 2021, we have featured 46 films from 37 filmmakers in 20 countries to date, and we are just upping those numbers today. So let me introduce our two guests, well, our one guest and our one ghost guest. First, 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥. She's a Mumbai native and graduated from Boston University with a double major in finance and entrepreneurship in 2012. In 2014, she co-founded Hot Rock Films, for which she wrote, directed, produced, shot, and edited promotional videos for startup companies and emerging musicians. 𝗬𝗨𝗥 completed her MFA in screenwriting and directing at Columbia University in 2019, after which she got a position as a creative producer at Applause Entertainment and is now working on developing a feature film. Very nice. As for Stephen Chow, he's a first-generation Chinese Kiwi writer, director, editor, and has worked in the local screen sector for over 15 years, including a stint in London. Deeply passionate about filmmaking and cinema, Stephen's independent short films have screened in festivals including NZIFF, Clermont-Ferrand, and Fantasia Fest. Recent directing credits include his award-winning short film thriller, Munkie, which we're watching today, which had a successful North American Film Festival run. Stephen hopes to continue directing compelling, edge-of-your-seat cinema with the focus for more Pan-Asian representation in front of and behind the screen in New Zealand. Stephen, welcome, welcome, welcome to Short Film Saturday. Can you tell us a little bit about your film that we're going to be watching today?
Yes, thank you, 𝗬𝗧𝗘𝗩𝗪, for having me here tonight. On this live event. Munkie was my thesis short film, which was made towards the end of the pandemic, late 2020. And the story was inspired by Canadian true crime. That's all I'll say for now.
Very cool. We are so excited to watch it. So here's how today is going to work. We're going to be watching both short films, but once you watch them, do not go anywhere because we're going to come right back on for the Q&A with Stephen, where we're going to get into all the gritty details of Munkie. So don't forget to like and subscribe. We have Short Film Saturday almost every week. So with that, enjoy the films. Hey everybody, and welcome back to Short Film Saturday. We just watched Sadak Chap by 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥 and Munkie by Stephen Chow. I could tell you're enjoying it because the comments were going crazy. Thank you so much for that. It makes the experience so much more fun. And Stephen, you can tell you were watching the comments and reading all those, juicy reactions. So with that, we are going to hop right into the Q&A. So we're just doing the Q&A for Munkie today. Unfortunately, 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥 had a bit of an emergency, so she isn't able to sit in with us today. But yeah, so let's chat about Munkie. First, Munkie's based on a true crime story, right? So we see that in the beginning titles. Can you tell us a little bit about how you came across this story and what made you want to turn it into a short film?
Yeah, sure. Basically, one evening listening to a true crime podcast. So that was the first instant when I came across Jennifer Pan, Canadian true crime. And I was just really, shocked by the events that unfolded and the fact that she conspired with her boyfriend and 3 thugs to murder her parents.
Yeah.
Due to severe tiger parenting. So I think that was sort of the spark for the inspiration in order to kind of turn it into a screen story. I think the other sort of important point to make as well is that for the father, he survived, and he actually sort of witnessed his daughter betraying him and his wife. So that was quite tragic.
Yeah, definitely. So then you mentioned this film, it touches on the tiger parenting phenomenon that's quite prevalent in the Asian diaspora. So what are your thoughts first on this phenomenon and how it's manifested itself also in New Zealand specifically?
Well, I think from my own personal experience, having, this sort of conflict with my strict parents affected me personally. And I think it sort of affects Asian teenagers from the Chinese diaspora in New Zealand and Australia, where there's this sort of generational cultural divide. And it's sort of, that conflict, and I guess sort of having strict immigrant parents and high expectations, where academic success, is everything, where, you get affected by, I guess, mental health when it gets really tough. So I could sort of, empathize with Jennifer Pan and her situation, why she kind of did it, but it was sort of so extreme. You don't want to murder your parents, kill your parents. So I guess, thematically, I was kind of looking at forbidden love and parental control, that tough love, and whether or not tough love causes more harm than good.
Yeah, definitely. So then when we were speaking earlier, you'd mentioned wanting to separate your narrative short from the true story. So then how did you get into writing this main character and her mental state without basing it on the real woman who did this?
Good question. I know sort of like it's a Canadian story, and I thought it was kind of best to take inspiration from that true crime. So then I've got a bit more creative license.
Yeah.
Looking at, these real people and turning them into characters.
Yeah.
For the short film. When I pitched it to my MA supervisors, we were sort of trying to discuss how to find a portion of the events and get it down into a concise, I guess, narrative script for a short film. And 14 minutes is quite short. So there wasn't actually a lot of time for me to develop Rose, her sort of backstory and context in terms of her psychology. But I kind of like try to do enough in the first half of the short film where, we sort of understand her situation and her sort of sense for independence, and wanting to have a romantic relationship with Vincent, and trying to kind of hide that relationship from her parents. But it was, I think it was a bit of a struggle for me, sort of trying to work out her emotional through line and keeping her as a character active through the story as it sort of unfolded. And I think her relationship with her parents were really important because, it's sort of like if parents abuse their kids, something like this could happen. But really, I think for Rose as, the only daughter, I think it was about her confronting that sort of patriarchal symbolic order within the family. And responding to the violence. So in scripting, I thought about transformation for her character from someone who comes off as wounded, that we could sort of relate to and empathize, to someone who transforms as a villainess. And then it's sort of your allegiance, I guess, you know, for her. It's sort of you kind of it's morally becomes ambiguous, and you don't know whether to root for her or not.
Yeah.
So that was yeah, I think a bit of the thought process going through my head for that particular character. And I think for mum and dad, initially I had both of them as the two antagonists against Rose, but I figured I think it would have been better just to focus dad as the domineering parent.
Yeah.
And mum as the good mother, the peacemaker. Because I think you know, when she does get killed, for Rose, I think she sort of realizes or regrets, you know, sort of what has unfolded because she's lost her mum.
Yeah. Wow. So then shifting focus a little bit. So I understand that you had quite an issue with location scouting due to the timing of filming. Can you tell us a little bit about that adventure?
Yeah, so if we're going back 2020 COVID pandemic, we didn't have any community cases at that time, so we could still go out and shoot. And I guess, you know, when we started sort of pre-production, we didn't have any luck with Airbnbs in terms of location scouting for the house. And then we ended up with a property rental company that manages short-term rentals. So what was kind of interesting, I guess, is we didn't have that many options. We only had one townhouse, which is the house that you saw in the short film. And all the other houses were basically booked out by Amazon and Netflix at the time. Yeah, Amazon was shooting a you know, a big series involving hobbits at the time, and Netflix was shooting Cowboy Bebop. So so it got a bit tricky trying to find the house, the location to shoot the short film.
That is so interesting.
But we got there in the end.
Yes, it did work out in the end. The house you guys had looked really, really good. So then, as you can see in the comments, people were raving about the cinematography. Who or what have been some of your visual and story references for Munkie?
I think sort of influences when I was, you know, researching and trying to find my vision and the language for the film visually. I, you know, ended up watching Nicholas Ray's Rebel Without a Cause because that dealt with, you know, teenage rebellion. I looked at Dogtooth, which was Yorgos Lanthimos, his film, and that sort of focused on the family dynamic with a domineering father.
Very interesting family dynamic for sure.
Yeah. And I sort of, you know, I end up looking at a number of anti-hero films as well, because I was sort of exploring the anti-heroine protagonist as an archetype for this story. So like A Clockwork Orange was another influence. I'm a big fan of Stanley Kubrick. So stylistically, in terms of color, A Clockwork Orange, hence Munkie orange font. And then I think, you know, sort of coming of age, teenage centered stories, big fan of Euphoria. Euphoria and a film called Waves as well. So I ended up, so those were sort of my influences. And then I think trying to work out or try and build a visual language for the story as well. You know, I sort of ended up looking at video essays on YouTube. I mean, YouTube is incredible for learning lots of things about cinema. Yeah. So so things like scene transitions. You know, I sort of looked into that, juxtaposition, all these sort of stylistic devices, I guess, to inform the look of the film. And I tend to be sort of meticulous, I guess, with details, and really find that it's important, you know, to have a close collaboration with your DP, your production designer, and costume designer as well. So that all kind of came into it, you know, getting a group of really talented creatives, and yeah, and something sort of comes out of it that is just beautiful, the alchemy, I guess, of collaboration. So
very nice. So then up until now, you've been just an editor, but you fully transitioned into this directing space. So then how do you think your background in editing affects your style as a director?
Well, firstly, I actually wanted to become a director, but I couldn't get any jobs in the industry here in New Zealand, you know, no opportunities. And of course my tiger parents, you know, after, you know, sort of doing film school and student loan, job, you know. So I ended up getting into editing because people were asking me to edit show reels, commercials. And so, you know, I've been editing for a while, and I guess how that sort of informs my directing, I feel kind of more comfortable sort of knowing what is coverage and how I can kind of shoot and tell stories from an editorial point of view. So I think that sort of definitely did help with scripting and with production as well, because you know, once it came down to the breakdown of the script to shoot, you know, I could be confident that we would only need so many shots in order to tell a particular scene. And it kind of, I think, sort of with editing and doing a lot of it as well, and the pressure means that from a post-production point of view, I've been kind of stress tested in order to try and solve, you know, story issues and fixing things as well. But it's really different, I think, being on set. You know, it's a completely different environment once, you know, you're on set and you've got all the different departments and you're actually kind of making something right there and hoping for the best. So I had been struggling, I think, to get directing work. And actually my mentor, you know, who is who runs the screen department at Auckland University, you know, she, you know, had a real, you know, good talk with me and basically said, "Steve, why aren't you directing?" And I said, "I've been trying and just getting knocked back and, you know, disillusioned with the industry." And then she said, "Why don't you come and do your postgraduate studies and come and make a short film? You know, make something that is compelling and that will resonate with audiences, and will provide, you know, the rigor, you know, for your script writing, and empower you to make the short film and have something to say." So I said, "Okay, let's do it." And yeah, and so that's why we're here now. You know, it's because of my mentor 𝗬𝗢𝗓𝗓 getting me to make the short film. So I'm hoping to direct, you know, I'm hoping to direct more in the future. But it's been tricky for me, I think, trying to pivot from editing to directing projects.
Okay, very cool. So then what advice would you give to filmmakers who are maybe in a similar situation where they found themselves in one role, but they really want to make the transition to a different role?
Well, just do it. You know, no one's stopping you. Yeah, I think everyone kind of has this imposter syndrome. If you're experienced in one discipline, you know, you have no experience in another. But just try it out, I think. At the end of the day, it sort of comes down to your passion for what you want to do. I love editing, but you know, I just love directing and filmmaking and working with actors. I love script writing, telling narrative stories. And I love now, just recently, doing documentaries as well, filmmaking, which is a whole different process. So yeah, no, don't be afraid. Even if you're an actor, you've got many actors who are now writing and directing projects.
Yes.
I kind of feel like, if you end up doing something which is repetitive, it can become stale. And I feel like, for me anyway, it's all about having new experiences, and learning something from that. And I think if you're passionate and there are experiences and people and ideas that kind of fuel your imagination for storytelling, then go for it. And I think just have that kind of willpower as well, because there are setbacks, there are challenges. It's not, I don't feel it's an easy road to become a filmmaker, especially if you want it to be a career. But it's possible. So yeah.
Very nice, very cool. Alrighty, so then with that, I will open up the floor to audience questions. Anyone with any questions for Stephen, please go ahead and drop it in the chat now. While we give everyone the chance to type up those questions, I would like to know, Stephen, what is next for you? What projects should we be looking forward to?
Well, I'm currently in post-production for a 1-hour documentary, which I end up co-directing with another Pan-Asian filmmaker.
Cool.
And it's for Māori television. Yeah, and it basically is an observational documentary that follows Meng Foon, who is our Race Relations Commissioner for the Human Rights Commission. So he's a very unique individual here in New Zealand. He's New Zealand-born Chinese, but he can speak te reo Māori language here in New Zealand. And so he has this ability to sort of straddle multiple identities and navigate different worlds, Māori world, as well as Chinese, his Cantonese Siep side. And we have been following him last year, I guess, for a year now, where the Human Rights Commission have been looking at steps, to sort of talk about race relations here in New Zealand, and have those difficult conversations about racism and colonization. So we felt it was really important, especially during COVID, where we had sort of the anti-Asian hate protests and George Floyd, and of course, the terrorist attack for March 15th down here in Christchurch. So I've got a documentary which will be finished in September. It goes there in September, and then we'll submit it to film festivals.
Great.
And then I guess, given the success of Munkie for the film festival circuit, I'm looking to do a horror short film. So a horror short film, and currently scripting a feature-length version of Munkie.
Oh, nice.
Because short film, it's too short. It's way too short. So I've been writing it. So we'll see what happens, I guess, with that.
Very cool. So then how can audience members keep up with you, so that we know, like, when new stuff comes out, we want to know exactly when it's coming out? Where should we, what channels should we be following you on? Do you have a website, things like that?
I'm pretty active on Instagram, so you can follow me on Instagram. Stephen 𝗬𝗡𝗩𝗏, Stephen spelled with a V, not a PH. So I'm sort of addicted to Instagram at the moment. It's quite a nice distraction. But you can follow me there, I guess, for latest updates. I've got a website, but I'll update the website maybe once a year. Not really active with the website.
Okay. So Instagram is the one. All right, everyone. So you got to follow Stephen on Instagram. We have a lot of audience questions. Wow.
Really? All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's do it.
We cannot answer all
Oh,
of
hold
them.
on.
Let's definitely dive in and answer a few. First from 𝗬𝗪𝗡𝗎𝗓1, what was your favorite part of making the film?
Favorite part? Well, you know, it was the one scene when Rose, who's played by Xana Tang, by the way, she's fantastic. I love Xana. It's the one scene where basically Rose comes downstairs to unlock the front door, and then she has that one moment with Mum. Mum offers her peanuts. And I know that when we filmed that scene, everyone, because everyone knows what's going to happen, but not Mum, right? We really kind of felt the emotion in that particular scene. Yeah. And it was beautiful as well. I think we only did 2 takes, but that scene stayed with me. So I think that was my favorite scene, shooting it and in the short film, in the finished film.
Very cool. So another audience question from Mario. What was the audience reaction around the world to this film?
Not too sure. I've sort of on YouTube on short of the week, you know, I've had a look at some comments. I think some people complained it was it was made by Kiwis.
Really?
And yeah, but you know, it's sort of it's a universal story. It resonates with
definitely
you know, Asians, you know, from down under. I think a lot of people and a lot of friends said it was intense. Just intense, and triggered as well. I think a couple of friends were quite upset about it. So it could, and then positive, you know, you get good positive comments. I sort of really appreciate comments, good and bad, really. And I think for my you know, my cohort, I think was sort of impressed by the filmmaking. But that's only because, you know, I've been working in the industry for a while now and I've already made a few short films. Yeah. So it just meant that when I, you know, ended up making Munkie, I could kind of hone in on my directing and find those sort of nuances. But I don't know, it's sort of, I mean, what did you think, Nase?
I absolutely love Munkie.
Throwing it back to you.
I'm a big fan of thriller and horror. So as soon, like, honestly, the second it started, especially with those slow pans in, it's a very, like, I guess a convention of the horror genre, those like slow pans in. So as soon as you see those, I'm like, okay, this is it. It's something bad is gonna happen. It's coming. So I really love that. But also I'd seen a documentary about this true story before. So not in the beginning, like around where the home invasion happened, that's kind of where it clicked. And I was like, I know this story. I know this, you know? And then once that clicked, I was like, oh no, I know it's coming. Such a dread.
Yeah. No, some comments were made like, just watching it and then realizing, oh my God, this is a Jennifer Pan story. Yeah, because there's a home invasion and you know, the only daughter, Golden Child, plotting to murder her parents. So All
right, so we have a burning question from Mika. Where is the real Rose now? Did she go to jail?
Jennifer, she's incarcerated, a life sentence, which is really tragic. She continued, I think from what I've read online, she's denied that she was the one who instigated the whole home invasion. Yeah. But I think you know, she's broken. And it's really tragic because she did, I think, you know, she committed the crime in her early 20s. Yeah. And it was sense of independence and freedom, and she never got that. She completely destroyed her family. So it's pretty sad, you know. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, okay. We'll take two more from the audience. We have one from Caroline. As a director, how do you decide whether you got the shot or not? Because you were earlier saying that one of your favorite scenes you were able to get just in 2 takes. So then how are you deciding, yes, that's it, versus no, we need to go again? That's a hard one.
Yeah, because it has its challenges. I think, you know, during the whole process, like pre-production, production, you know, you're on set and we're doing night shoots, and the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
It's taking ages, you know, to set up, to get everything right before we start rolling camera. And you do a take. And sometimes I kind of feel one of the challenges or one of the problems, I guess as an artist as well, because you do suffer as an artist, is like, I don't think that was good enough, but I'm not sure whether I want to, you know, get everyone to do it again or inconvenience the cast and crew because we're running out of time.
Yeah.
So it's a bit tricky, but I think having a really good dialogue with my DP and with the actors is really important, and doing as much prep really helps. So then, I mean, I'll give you an example. When Rose, you know, has that photo, and the take that we got, the focus of that photo was mum. I actually wanted the focus to be on dad, but we shot it, and I just went cut, and then was just kind of thinking maybe we could do another one and reposition, but then I kind of thought maybe not, and I sort of regretted it, you know, on the day of the shoot. And I think the other thing as well is, you know, you've got something when magic kind of happens on screen.
Yeah.
So the ending, you know, when Rose breaks the fourth wall, in some way to kind of implicate us as viewers into the story. I had no idea that when she actually turned her phone on, you know, the light illuminated her face, but then the light went off the phone, and it was kind of a perfect ending. You know, so that was kind of magical, and I think, you know, we just did 2 takes. I was sort of, my God, we got it. We don't need any more takes. Let's move on.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Alrighty, so then for our final audience question, we'll go back to Cell Crazy One. What would you do differently next time in terms of process? If you would do anything differently at all.
In terms of process, yeah, I don't know. It was sort of, I think like directing, I was, you know, I did think about, you know, whether we should shoot it handheld. I did think about having more coverage, more of a, I mean, this is story-wise as well, the confrontation with the father and the thugs. But I think the process, what was really difficult for us is, you know, like student short films, you know, it was self-funded. So I didn't have a lot of money, and the pressure as well, you know, of spending for a short film and for the MA. And that does kind of impact your process and time, especially with production and post-production. I think, yeah, I don't think I would have changed that much, really. I wish I probably had more time scripting. And maybe more time with our actors, with Xana and Park and Janet. But I think it went smoothly. So
Definitely.
you know, after we shot, then it was a race to finish the short film, to finish my thesis.
Yeah.
And submit it, you know, within 2 months.
Very cool.
So yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, I lied. I am actually going to take one more audience question because I do think this is a good one. From Mika, is there anti-Asian hate in New Zealand? So then I suppose asking from the perspective of someone who lives very far from New Zealand, we don't get a lot of news about New Zealand, but like specifically like social issues in New Zealand. Is that, like, in your opinion, a big problem in New Zealand? Like, yeah, how would you tackle that?
It has been a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because of colonization and Asian immigrants, including Indian, and the larger diaspora, have always sort of been targets. I've suffered racism, and we did. When COVID came out, it happens here in New Zealand. So it's sort of I think times are changing now, and with global activism, these issues are now sort of being addressed. So for me, that's why I think doing the documentary, following Meng Foon as a race relations commissioner, I think some of those really sort of difficult conversations to be had about race, it's something that we can kind of work through and talk. But it's changing, and I think it's changing for New Zealand and even for our screen sector, for filmmaking as well. But unfortunately, there is this sort of what Meng would say, this racism within us. People with who have unconscious and conscious biases. And it's not just race, we're talking about gender, sexuality, class, ability, all this sort of different spectrum. But I think historically, Asians have been targeted, and even politicians politically using the anti-immigration rhetoric, does affect many Asian New Zealanders.
Okay, very interesting. Well, I think that was very well said, very well put, very educational for those of us who may be very far away from New Zealand. And with that, we are going to end audience questions. Thank you to everyone who submitted many questions. We do super appreciate it. Thank you to Stephen for A, making such an amazing film, but then B, coming to chat with us about it. It has been a lot of fun. Next Short Film Saturday is going to be next week on June 11th, and we'll be joined with 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥 from Chile. So we are going from New Zealand all the way over to Chile, nice and far. So don't forget to like and subscribe. We got lots of fun stuff happening on this channel. And of course, we're going to post this Q&A later as well. Stephen, thank you again.
Cool. No, thank you for having me. And I just want to add to 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥, thank you so much for your beautiful short film.
Yes.
I loved it. So yeah. So shout out to 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥.
Shout out to 𝗬𝗢𝗨𝗥, definitely.
But no, thank you. Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight.
Yes, thanks everyone.
Today.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.